Hi, I'm Caroline, and welcome to my first official Flosstube. Today I'm going to do WIP parade and show you my different projects that I've worked on, starting with some of my current projects and then working my way into all of the baskets over here. I do have a little 16-month-old co-host, so if you hear any block noise or baby noises, that's who you hear. And if I go kind of fast, that's also kind of why because I racing the clock of how much patience he has for hanging out with me while I work on stuff. So we'll try to do show notes. I figure done is better than perfect when it comes to getting videos up. I'm not a professional yet, but I'm getting better. So I will try to either put notes up on the screen or in the down bar before I post. So anyway, so let me go ahead and start with my most recent finish and start. So I decided for New Year's, I wanted to dig into one of my series that I've been working on, and I wanted something beachy because I like beach themed things. I was a HGTV, watch all the house hunters at the beach kind of girl growing up. So I always like reach for books, and stitching has that theme this time of year. So this is the July wordplay from With Thy Needle and Thread, and you can go on her website, I believe, and find her patterns. So I did make a couple of modifications. I changed a few colors. So on the mermaid, I decided I wanted a mermaid with top. So I did stitch a little bit of color there. It's the same color as his shirt, which I think is Lexington green. And that is literally all of Lexington green on the entire project. So I decided that I would use the thread on the mermaid. And then I also decided to give her red hair. Made a few other color modifications on this, just based on what I had in stash. I went stash diving and pulled my flosses. So anything that's classic colorworks is something that I changed. So I changed the white to bamboo. Most of the words I did with hickory sticks, and then the people I stitched with sun-kissed, and I think I used river rocks instead of one of the grays, and let's see, I used blacksmith blue instead of one of the darker blues, and then I used DMC 38303, yeah, for a couple things as well. So just kind of stash diving and stitch that up. I like to use a big hoop if I can. I think this is a 10-inch hoop because I can get all of the page on and I can stitch all of it at once. I like to be a page finisher when I'm stitching. I did have to move it a little bit because I wasn't able to get the entire crab, but that is one of my projects. This is a priority project this year to try and finish all of these. I have October's finished, and I've started January's, which I started this a long time ago. I do want to get back to this one in maybe a couple days. Since I just finished the July, I want to work on my other project that's current. Sorry, threads hanging and everything. It's not professional. But I want to get back to this and finish this one in January, and then I can just kind of stitch some of the other ones on the fabric. This is a 30 count. I don't have the label. It was one of the fancy brands. I was all excited a couple years ago on 123 Stitch on Black Friday. It was like one of the Weeks Dye Works, or one of the brands that everyone talks about on Flosstube. And I was like, oh, I'm going to buy that. I will say, though, it's not my favorite to stitch with because sometimes the holes are a little bit big in spots and the needle will fall out. So I'll like put the needle up because I do the sewn method, and then it'll fall back down. So anyway, I mean, it's pretty fabric, but I will say that was something that was kind of annoying in spots. But that was a fun start and finish. Have part of November started, so I want to finish this series this year if I can. Flosses. One thing I will comment on, let me see if I can find the pattern without showing any of the secret sauce. So one thing I'll note about the pattern is when you look at the back of the pattern, for whatever reason, my brain does not jive with this kind of list of flosses. And so I'm like finding myself like rewriting it and trying to check things off. What I should do, and what I'll do on the other ones, is if you just open it up and look at the color key, they're like in the normal format for a list. So I'll just need to remember that when I kit up her other projects, is that if you open it up, suppose if you're in the store, it's a little difficult, but if you have it at your house and you're looking in your stash, I just use that as my list because for whatever reason, the way it's set up on the other one, it's kind of hard for my brain. I don't know why. But anyway, so that's my first project. That's fun. I will work on January. And then I will work on some of the other ones here. Look at the patterns. This bag weighs a ton because it's got like all the patterns on it. So here in it, sorry. So November. Try not to show any secret sauce on anything here. I think I saw a crosshatch quilter. Oh, look, I have the label. Look at me. It's 30 count light khaki linen. Oh, maybe it's a no name brand. Weeks I work, yeah. So anyway, it's the label. Sorry, it's folded in half so it wouldn't stick on anything. And then there's the January. I think some of my January stitching I might do in July next year. We'll see. The picture's really dark on this one. September. These are not in any order. August might be my favorite. I love the garden theme. These here is June. I want to work on all of these. It took me about a week to stitch that one, so I figure if I just kind of mix them in every couple of weeks, work on one, then I'll have them. I have quite a few of these type series going. I need to make myself a spreadsheet and kind of check off which ones are finished, which ones are started, which ones are fully finished. I'm always afraid I'm going to stitch something twice. But I just want to keep working my way through these because I love them. I want to do the February one too. And December. So anyway, these are super cute, super fun, and try not to scoop everything off my table into my bag. So anyway, so that's the first one. The next project was, I think, my Christmas morning start or Christmas Eve. I did a couple starts around then, and that's the summer Quaker. And this has been a pretty popular pattern on Flosstube, but I am modifying it for my ancestry wall. So my grandfather was born in Bermuda, and this kind of reminded me of him. Just the beachy theme, some of the, like, he loved lobster, and I already have a sampler stitch with his name on it, so this is going to be dedicated to his parents. And he was adopted and did not know he was adopted until he was retired, I believe. So I want to put both his adoptive parents' names and his birth parents' names on here, and so that will take the place of this wording here. And then where it says summer, I'm changing that out to say Bermuda. But because Bermuda has one more letter than summer, I'm going to omit this little icon here, and that will be the letter that I need. So I have almost a page finish on this one. And this is like legitimately how it looks when I stitch it. So I thought I would show that too, because I'm always curious to see how other people stitch. So anyway, so here's what I have so far. And you can see I have the B for Bermuda. I believe I took the chart for the R. So I took the chart for the R, and then I just kind of mirrored that to make it a B. So I'll modify that as much as I can. And well, I try to do a page, and then if I get to like the end of where a page turns and I still have thread on my needle, I'll grab the next page and just finish the thread. I try not to have a million hanging threads. I know I had on one of my word plays, but that drives me nuts. So I try not to do that. And I try to, if I start a thread, I want to try to find enough spots in the pattern to finish it. So sometimes that means for me stitching more of one color so that I have enough things to kind of count other things off. I have a whole strategy game when it comes to cross stitch. I nerd out on it. But if anyone's going to understand, it's people in Flosstube. So anyway, and then I try to keep also, if it's my current project, I'll start a thread or have a thread going and then just stick it. I find I'm less likely to use needles if there's a thread attached to it. So anyway, so almost done. I have this motif here to finish, and then I think there's a couple of hearts, and then I'll start, there's a little bit of here, and then part of a bird. I'm changing the bird color though, because in the picture, it's a blackbird. I'm going to change mine to red. I'd rather have a cardinal than a blackbird, so mine will be a cardinal. And so that is that project. Oh, one other thing I want to talk about. So I use these, and I saw this idea, or some version of this idea at some point, and these are basically, sorry for crinkles, magnetic silicone ties. And maybe someone cool has made ones that are more fashionable colors than these, but I just got these off of Amazon, and it's a huge pack of them. And I use these to hold my my fabric. And so I will roll my fabric, and then because I'll stitch, I'll hold it like this and I'll stitch, and it just holds my fabric so I don't have all of this fabric hanging off my piece when I'm working. The other thing I try to do is I try to roll the fabric so that the the outside or the wrong side of the fabric is showing. So like if this was already stitched, you would just see the back of the stitches just to protect the finished fabric and the finished stitches. But anyway, so this will be a fun one. I'm hoping not to lose steam on the project. As you can tell in a minute when I get to my million other projects, I do tend to lose steam on projects and start something new. So I'm thinking if I work on a page or part of a page and then work on a small and then come back to it, that you might be able to get a lot done. Sorry, he was playing with blocks. So that is a project I am excited about and having fun with. I don't know how long it will be my priority project, but I am enjoying it, so I'm going to keep working on it. The other project I need to get done this year, and I thought about doing WIP Go, but I realized I needed to be responsible and work on this project instead. So this project is the Christmas stocking. It is Sleigh right at dark, and it's the dimensions. It is Nikki Bone, which I like some of her other full coverage pieces as well. And this is going to be my son's Christmas stocking. It needs to be done by this Christmas. He's going to be over 2 years old, so it needs to be done. So this is my priority full coverage project this year. So I probably will not be starting any other full coverage pieces or working on very many other things until this is done. And I worked a ton on this year. Even in the hoop, I'm not a professional. And I got a ton done. And then I just realized I wasn't going to finish it by this Christmas. And then I ran out of steam like all of a sudden. So lots of blended threads, mostly full coverage. As you can see, when I do a full coverage, I try to do a bunch of like whatever the most predominant color is. And then that way it's easy to just kind of fill and count other things. So this one, I mean, I think it gets easier as it goes up here because there's a lot of half stitching up here. And anyway, so that's fun. I'll do story time for that at some point because there's lots of like little cute things that kind of go with my little one's birth story. That was an exciting night. And so maybe when it gets closer to being finished, I'll share that story. So anyway, I should put this out with my other projects and be responsible stitcher and actually work on these. I'll be good to put that here. That way maybe I can put a couple of threads on it a week or a night, or however I want to do it. So now let me talk projects. I'm just going to grab baskets and go for it. So one of my goals this year is I want to stitch down on the clubs and the little monthly stitch alongs that I've started. So this is one that I started a couple years ago. It's the Month to Month by Bucilla and Chelsea, and I was part of the Club on Fat Quarter shop. And so I have all of the flosses that go with it. And that's one of the reasons why I like to kind of finish some of these. It's just to free the floss because there's floss in everything. And honestly, I like some of these because it's a good way to collect floss in a color palette that is nice because I like everything Priscilla and Chelsea stitch. So I know that if I have a fabric or a stitch club through them, then I'll have a lot of floss when I'm done that I like. But anyway, so I started this one, and this is on a 40 count. Let me see if I can find the, I have the label right here. So this is a half yard of 40 count white verdal even weave. And so that should be a lot of fun to work on. And you see I got part of the way done and then I stopped. So a whole bunch of these pieces. They're not expensive. It's not as fancy or as thick as other types of fabric or linen, but it's fun to stitch on. But I have the whole set of these, so I need to work on them, free the floss, and make these. So here is December's, September. They all have the beautiful flosses in the back. Here's the December's flosses. So again, it's just a wonderful way to collect floss that goes together and that looks nice and that probably can be used in other patterns. October's, April, February, March. There's just so much floss and so many patterns. So I really would like to work my way through these. I haven't decided I should probably stitch the smalls too. It's June. I can't even see it. There's floss in the way. But July. I plan on switching May though. I don't know, the flowers are a little 70s for what I'm going for. So my plan is I'm going to use the flowers on here. I don't know how I'm going to do it exactly, but this is the Antong Ufendel, and I'm going to switch out the flowers and the colors to go with this. So anyway, so that's my plan for that project. My next project is Queen of Freedom by Nora Corbett. And this was a project I worked on when I was pregnant in my 3rd trimester. So this will always kind of be a project that makes me think of my little one in that summer, and listening to audiobooks and stitching on this. I think the last time I stitched on this was actually the night before he was born. And having a lot of fun with this. This is my first Nora Corbett. And I can't remember the fabric manufacturer, but I think if you look for, I think this is We the People fabric, I was able to pick a 32 count, and I have so far for her. I think they reprinted these patterns, so you might be able to find them if you're interested. This is my first time stitching with Kreinik, and while it's not amazing, it's better than the stuff you get in Dimensions kits, so I will say that. And this is the 002J. So that was not super awful to stitch with, comparatively speaking. Got flosses, a lot of just DMC. I think there's some silks in here somewhere. And then I've got some of the fancier flosses just in one of these little bags that comes with yarn sometimes. So that'll be fun. I've never done beading like this on a cross stitch. And then I just have some of my other fancy things just all in here. So I've got some of the silks. I did not use the silks for her face on this particular project. I watched on, I think, Buddha cross stitch. She showed her conversion. And so I got all the stuff with all the intention of doing it. I've got nylon thread for the beads. I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to the beading. So I am no expert. I will have to watch some YouTube on that. But basically I just have all of these different silks that as I stitch my different Mirabilias, I should be able to figure out how to do some of this. And I'll talk about that as I get to it. And this is just a little bag I got from Primitive Gatherings in one of their clubs when I was in her club. So anyway, and then my plan is like this bag will just transfer to the next bag when I'm stitching on Mirabilia. So anyhow, so that is that one. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be someone who only stitches one Mirabilia at a time. I know I have a mermaid I'd like to start this spring. So I'll probably start that though, but maybe I'll have just a few things going at a time. And next project. So next one, and I probably have more of these in one of these other baskets, and I will have to organize as I go here. My little one is finding stuff to play with. He found fabric from my other video. So Trucking Along is another series I'd like to finish this year. I was in the club for a while, and then I stopped and just ended up picking up patterns. I don't know why. And special colors of floss. So here is the February Trucking Along. Should probably, I don't want to put too much pressure on myself to stitch the month when it is the month, because sometimes if I fall behind, then that's how I have so many of these projects going. But that's when I have the kit. I think I realized I had enough fabric, and so I stopped buying the kit because it had the fabric in it. But I have several of these to go, and I should just keep working on them. Just alternate and do a week at a time with some of these. I like the orange on that. It's fun. At some point, I will do kind of a stash parade. If that's the wrong word. I will do a project show and tell of some of the ones I have already finished. A piece of the 14 count will tell, because I have finished a few of them and I made some modifications, and I'd like to get those finished this year. So we'll see how that goes. I like to start new projects too. So that one. So next is I did a Modern Folk Embroidery. I don't have a finished picture of it. Holiday Countdown with Roxy Flosco. I won't show the pattern, but it came with one of these like each day of December. So I have the rest of them somewhere, but I ended up just pulling the 25th day because it has the entire pattern on it. And I decided to stitch mine in one color, and I'm using just the floss for something else. And this is the 18 count Ada that it came with. I'm not sure which way this goes. Say it goes this way. And I am stitching this with DMC 815. I think my original intent was maybe as I stitch more Christmas, I have a ton of them, that maybe I'll have like a red sampler wall for Christmas. The colors were really pretty on there, but it was like too many colors for what I wanted to do. So anyway, I have not touched that in a long time. The next one is a Blackwork project, and it's from the Steady Thread, and this is the 2023 Botanical Sow, and this was, I believe, on Facebook, and she probably has a new one this year if you're interested. I'm sure you could find one. And for this, I picked a bunch of colors that I liked, and just kind of kitted them up. Very botanical theme. I've got H34, Amber Waves, Honeycomb, Gold Leaf, literally just a whole mix of all kinds of different stuff. This one is Teal Frost, just makes better. 948, 20, 21, 3777, Cranberry, and Merlot, 801, and Bullfrog. So anyway, super quick show and tell of those, and here's what this looks like. This is on Fiber on a Whim, Milk and Honey 18 count. And oh, there's a whole blob of threads. So anyway, so Blackwork is basically all backstitch, which is funny because normally if I'm doing a full coverage, I hate the backstitch. But this whole project is backstitch, and it's super fun and it's super easy. It looks way more complicated than it really is, but I need to like sit down and actually like stitch out the whole honeycomb pattern and then just start filling them in. But I think I have one other Blackwork in here somewhere, but it's just a fun, different project for when I'm in the mood for something different. And then I have it in my Fat Quarter Shop bag that probably came in one of my cross stitch clubs from years ago. Oh, here's the setting that I'm doing. You can see I kind of marked out which ones I had traced. And so anyway, this will be super fun. I want to get back to this. I'm going to probably start saying that a lot now. But anyway, so that's one thing. It's a little bit different. The next one, I collected a couple of the Log Cabin Christmas. Oh, this must just be like the finishing, I don't know, idea. But I don't think I bought all the patterns. So I'll probably just do a couple of smalls. Unless I change my mind, then I can always collect more of them. But I started this. See, I got all excited about this, I think, as a stitch along. Got a couple of the patterns. I kitted up all of the flosses. Picked a piece of fabric, and that's as far as I got. So anyway, I'm not sure. This is just scrap fabric. I think it's just 36 count, probably raw, but we've got a whole bunch of it left over from another project. So anyhow, so that's one project that I should get back to at some point. Maybe later on in the year when I start to want to stitch seasonally, that could be a good thing to kind of put into rotation. So let me show you my next basket of projects here. I'm going to pause and reset. As I was unzipping these, I realized these projects are really in no particular order. So the next one is going to be something I'm probably going to unkit. So this is my first and probably only attempt at doing a Heaven and Earth design. It is the Mini Summer by Ruth Sanderson. And my original intent was I have the other 3 seasonal fairies, and I wanted to do the summer one too. But they've since released a kit that is the summer fairy. So I don't know. So I have 22 count white Hardanger fabric and a little bit of a start on it. It is tedious. Like, I don't know. My intention with this project was I was going to stitch it like a Dimensions, where if it's background, I was going to do half stitch, stitch the lady in full stitch, do some back stitching and some French knots. So, but that was a lot of stitching to do that. So I don't know. I probably won't unkit it anytime soon. I mean, it's fine living in its bag here where it is, but I mean, it's just pages and pages. Like literally, I think this is 2 or 3 project bags of supplies, but there's so much floss. So got all of that floss, more floss apparently that I didn't even put on thread drops. more floss. Like, you can just imagine, like, this is a big undertaking. So we'll see. I might not unkit it anytime soon. And then I've got some of the treasure braid. I think I was going to add this to it. So we'll see. And then there's needles and highlighter and all the kind of other stuff in there. But this has been on the needle for a couple years now, and we'll see. Maybe one day I will get back into stitching that. Zip those all in it. Here's one of my oldest projects, and this is probably like 20 years old. It's in a Ziploc bag. It's so old. So this is the Thomas Kincaid collection, and it is the Beauty and the Beast Falling in Love. I think I liked all of the pinks and the blues in this, and this is how far I got with this project. Literally, like, just bunches of thread. I'm a little bit on that. And these patterns are tricky. They're more difficult than a dimensions pattern, in my opinion. And like the flosses are all kind of on the original kind of setup that I don't really do anymore. So at some point I'll get back to this. I mean, it's sat in my basket for 20 years. And it might sit there for 20 more. Bayside Cottage by Dimensions. And even though these are small, sometimes the smalls are more difficult than the large ones, just because there's more color changing in a smaller space, which sometimes is fun though, because then you're not doing, thread after thread of the same color. I always take my floss and I cut them off of the little cards because I don't like the cards. But they just get messy, and I put them on my own floss drops. And so there's those. Cross stitching. So this has been on the go for a while. See, I almost have a page finish because I like to do page finishes, and then sometimes I'll get close to finishing a page and I'll stop. But anyway, I have to be in the mood to stitch full coverage, and I have to have like a good amount of time and a good audiobook. Like, it's a whole thing. When I do get in the mood, I get a lot done. But next one I barely have a start on, and this is Peonies and Delphiniums by the Gold Collection. And this one, oh yeah, I don't even know if that should count as a start. But it's part of the table there. Probably should show it longer than that. But anyway, so there's that. And the flosses are so pretty. I love the purples and the pinks on this and the greens. So at some point I'll be in the mood to stitch that again. Sometimes it's just fun to take the floss and put it on the floss drops, and that will satisfy my desire to start a project. Next one is a deep hibernation. It is Flight of Freedom. My dad loved patriotic. He loved eagles, and I was stitching on this while he was sick. So I have not picked this one back up in a couple years since I lost him. So at some point I'll probably pick it up and finish it, but this kind of holds those memories from that time. So anyway, just a good example of dimensions where you've got where you've got like a lot of the half stitch in the background, and then whatever the main character or the main feature of the pattern is in full cross. I love dimensions kits, but again, I've got to be kind of in the mood. And then here are flosses. I think this is actually might be so old it might be a made in the US kit. And then I took the key, I just cut it off of the pattern so it would be handy, so I wouldn't have to fold and unfold the pattern every time I work on it. But that is an old project, a couple years old. This one I started without any particular person in mind and just for fun. And this is the Welcome Santa stocking. And I have a small start on this. I don't know. It's 14 count Ada, so it went pretty fast. And so at some point I'll pull this out and finish it. It's got French knots, but it's fun to stitch on. I think I was just in the mood to stitch Christmas that year, and I don't think I had fully discovered all of what stitching has to offer these days. With I hadn't discovered all the Flosstube and all of the different designers yet, as when I was just getting back into stitching. Here's another one I was stitching for my dad that's kind of in deep hibernation, because he also loves Saturday Evening Post or anything kind of Norman Rockwell inspired. And this is Bucilla Heirloom collection. And This is rural post office at Christmas. So I have not seen these anywhere. Bought this on Joann's 25 years ago, but I don't think they really, I don't, maybe they took off and I don't know, but like I really don't see these kind of patterns very often. And this was my first time stitching full coverage on an even weave. And so it's kind of hard. A lot of the same color khaki. I think at some point I actually was like ready to restart it on Ada, but I had so much done on it that I just decided to keep going. And these patterns are tricky too because the patterns are huge, and so I don't know, and they're kind of low contrast with some of the different stitch motifs, so it can be kind of hard to stitch on. I'll just like compare and contrast some of the different brands here. Let me show you this one too. So this is literally like my oldest project is literally in just a random fabric bag. This has been on this scroll rod for 25 years. I don't know. I probably should unroll it before I try to work on it and to see if it's even salvageable. I didn't know about cross stitch stands at the time, so it was hard to hold it and stitch, but now that I have a cross stitch stand, I could totally work on this. And this is just an old Dimensions needlepoint. I think it's the only needlepoint I've actually ever started. Like literally, let me see what's in this bag. Stuff that hasn't seen the light of day in a long time. I don't even know what pattern it is. Let's see. Fishing into that, like literally. That's how old it is. It's in a Ziploc. And so here's all the flosses. Really pretty colors. But it is Dimensions needlepoint. Oh, made in the US kit, so it's really old. And it's the Cottage mill. So the next one is Benjamin Drew Designs. And he has a store on Etsy. I think it's Cultified Designs. And it's his Verlanded sampler. And it's a really cool pattern and a good value for the money because literally there was 3 versions of the pattern. It was a 12-month stitch along and each month had 3 versions, so you can kind of pick and choose which motifs you liked or which stitching you like. So mine probably doesn't even look anything like the example pattern because I picked and chose what I liked. And this is on 40 count. It's like my first project on 40 count, and it's the mallow linen. And it is massive. You can see I haven't even finished going across. It's just huge. And I'll show which 2 colors of DMC I'm using here in a minute. But this one is going to be on my sampler wall, and this one's going to be the one I'm going to put my dad's name on because I remember because he was still alive when I stitched this part, and so I kind of have those memories of we were watching Yellowstone on TV together and just spending time together for this. And there's some, I think, eco motifs further on down, and that kind of reminds me of him. And so this will be a project that will take me many years to work on. I'd like to actually pull it back out this year. And I'm doing DMC 924 and 926. And so anyway, so this is one I'd like to get back to, but it's a big one and it's a doozy. So anyway, I've got like a whole bag of printouts for that one. The next project is a little project sample book that my sister gifted me and has all of these gorgeous stitches. So I'm going to learn how to do embroidery by doing this is my plan. And it's like this nice canvas fabric, and it'll make a nice little book when it's done. And I plan on like keeping this in my embroidery bag so I have a sampler. All these bright, beautiful colors. That is my other Blackwork sampler, and this is Peppermint Purple design. And I think every year she has a free stitch along, so I'm sure you can find something similar. This is the Monaco fabric that I tea dyed, and I'm stitching with 3815. So when I'm in the mood for some back stitching, which is funny because normally I hate it, but I love it when it looks like this. So anyway, so that's a couple years old. I think it's like 2021, 2020. It's a long time. I also have this kit from the Heart Needle Art by Wendy. And this was from Treehouse Fiber Arts website. And I think this is Legacy Fiber Arts linens. And then believe this is the classic color work conversion for this particular pattern. So another one I'd like to get back to this year. Okay, next up, I've got a lot of my full coverage stitching. This one is Spring Fairy by Dimensions. I like the greens and the blues on this one. And quite a bit of stitching on that one. A lot of times I get in the mood to stitch full coverage during spring, so I think that's kind of inspiring for that one. And then here's all the flosses, like the bright colors. Should have combed these beforehand. Next up, I don't think I have very much of a start on this one, and this is the Woodland Enchantress. And yeah, barely a start on that one. Here's the floss. I think this one has beads in there too. Oh, whole big bag of beads. And I have the fall. I have all the kits, but I haven't started the fall or the summer. This one, I don't have the name. Oh, maybe I do. Summer Cottage. This is back when I used to cut just the picture out. And this is, I believe, on 14 count Ada. And see, I do about a page and then I move on to the next project. And the floss. Yeah, I think one of these years when I'm not trying to get a Christmas stocking done, I will do some kind of rotation for all of these projects and give them the attention they deserve. So this one is Scenic Farm. Kind of reminded me of Idaho when I lived there. You have the snow for good chunks of the year, and it kind of has that kind of color palette there. And I don't have a very significant start on that one. So, and then just the very muted palette. Next up is Rocky Point by the Gold Collection, and this was a old kit. I mean, I literally, like, the paper is glued on here. I don't think they do that anymore. And quite a bunch on this. This was my 2020 start. New decade, new start. I decided I would do the rocks and the water first. That way, by the time I got to the top, the fun part, the hard part would be done. But watched a lot of Paul Dark watching this, or stitching this. So at some point, be another one I'll get back to. Even feels different, so it must be the old stuff. It probably actually is DMC. I don't know if they did DMC with some of their original kits, but it's old kit. This is the kit. The reason why I stopped cross stitching a long time ago. So this is the Little Mermaid, and I love the purples and the teals and the rainbow in here. And I stitched this, and I did the page the wrong way. So like it's supposed to be way and it's this way. So this is when I probably have to restart unless I just kind of try to make it work. But I was so discouraged by doing the page wrong that I put it away and stopped cross stitching for 10 years. So this is the project. And see, I played with the floss at some point and put them on all the floss drops to try to motivate myself to get back to it. But at some point that might be something I just have to get a new piece of fabric from my stash and start over on. But again, like I'm not always in the mood for these kind of stitches. So next is, I think this one's barely a start. This is Overlooking Cafe. I think the water and the blue is probably a January start. There's a theme here, isn't there? Oh yeah, that's barely a start. Just a few stitches on that one. So anyway, so that'll be one I'll get back to at some point. It's funny how you remember like what you were watching or listening to or what was going on as you stitch some of these bigger projects. want to say this is English Cottage or something Cottage in English. Let's see if I can find the name on here. And this one I watched a lot of The Expanse while stitching. So I got to the second page of this one, and you can see where the bottom has a lot of the reflection of the piece, and then up here is the full coverage. So this one will be a lot of fun to get back to. I should listen to the audiobooks and stitch on this. But we'll see. I have to be in the mood for the stitching. Really pretty flosses. And then noticing a theme here of how I start things, and sometimes I'll work on them a lot, and sometimes I don't. I think this is another barely started start. So this is a Riolis. I think the only one I've actually started, and this was something I bought on Amazon a long time ago. I don't even know. I think that's the 1, 2, 3, 5. And this is on like 10 count Vita or something crazy. So it is huge. Like literally I could put it up really high up and you would be able to see the picture still. And the fabric doesn't feel the greatest. This is probably one of the reasons why I stopped. And it's got all these cool bobbins, but it's a different kind of experience, I think, to stitch on those. So anyway, next up I have the Chockful Designs by Hands On Design, back when Bucilla designed with her. And I have a bunch of these stitched already, and this is one of my oldest projects. I really would like to get this done this year. Some of the fabric, and this is just the 14 count chalkboard block Ada, which actually I don't find that hard to stitch on. You can see it has just enough of the white or gray in there that it kind of makes it easy. Is the bloom. See, I just like to free all the floss that's hanging on in all of these project bags. This is one that I'm modifying. So I wasn't crazy about the bunny heads, so I changed them to flowers using one of her other charts. So that's my current one that I've been working on for too many years. And I'm also going to modify the Santa one. I wasn't crazy about the Santa heads, so I was going to use the lights from this chart and kind of mishmash those together. I did the same thing with the Halloween one. Well, this is the trucking along, but I did the same thing with the jars where I took the faces off some of the pumpkins and just kind of made them more just neutral looking. This next one is probably my oldest project since getting back into cross stitch, so I would like to finish this. I don't even think I've started this, but it's kitted. This is the November Country Cottage Needleworks Cottage of the Month. And this is on 25 count. So when I first got back into it, I was like, ooh, I'm going to stitch on, an even weave. And now that I stitch on 36 count, 40 count, like these are huge. So here's the October one. It's finished, but not fully finished. And this fabric has room to put probably 3 more on here. So I probably would do that. And let's see, I still have to stitch December. January, February, March. Sorry if I'm going fast. I'm running out of baby time on this one. So April, May, June, July, and I've already stitched August. So I'm using the Classic Colorworks and the DMC on these. So a lot of fun to stitch on. I mean, it goes fast, but I just have to get used to stitching on such big fabric this year. So I do want to focus on this later this spring. I've got a plan, and I want to try to knock out some of these if I can. That way I can display these, because right now I think I only have 2 or 3 of them done, and it'd be nice to have more. This is another project that has been languishing for far too long. And oh my gosh, like this bag is a mess. So here, this is one of them. It's not the one I started though. This is the Spring Hands On Design. Let's Talk Spring. Just a super cute wordplay, and I like the smalls as well. I think I collected all of them. It's a shirt. I don't want to show that. And so this is the winter one. I collected all the DMCs, got a piece of fabric. It's super cute too. So I'd like to stitch these as well. And this is the one I've started. I don't see the summer one, so I probably still need to pick up the summer pattern then. But so far I have that much stitched. It's a lot of fun. It's easy. It's just one that I haven't spent much time with. And then the flosses are literally just in a heap on the bottom of the bag. So leave those in there. And last but not least, I have the first of the summer stitching series. I think this is the summer ABCs. And this one is completely stitched, but I need to do its friends spring, autumn, and winter. And this is the Summer ABCs by Little House Needleworks, and it's stitched on 28 count Monaco that I dyed in my tea and coffee tea phase a couple years ago when everybody was tea and coffee dyeing all the fabric. And I believe I used the called for, or if I modified it, I'm not sure. But so anyway, so that's really pretty. I want to get a nice frame or board and make something for that. I'll make it. And I plan on putting spring and autumn on here. It's got a really dark line. I won't use that part, but I will use the more tonal parts and stitch the others on there. But I'd like to finish this. This is like a 2019 project, so it has been around for a while. So here's autumn ABCs. Got some of the flosses that I picked out. I have winter ABCs, and I will be using this fabric for that. And then there's also spring ABCs. So this is a series I'd like to finish this year. So anyway, thank you so much for watching my WIP parade of all the cross stitching that I have started. Hopefully when I do another one of these in a year or so, I've actually finished a lot of these projects and I haven't started 700 more projects. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening to all the baby noise in the background, and I will look forward to talking to you again soon.